Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Welcome to Countercharge. I'm Alan Buehner.
And I'm Rob Enough. And we're back again for a List Builder Studio, this time with the infamous Alan Buehner from the Mid-Atlantic. We're really excited to have you on, Alan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rob. I'm glad to be here. It's my first time on.
Well, you're already podcast royalty because you guys had the Drunken Disordered podcast.
Yeah, we had
for a while.
Drunken Disordered. It's been a while for that, though.
Yeah, well, tell us what's been going on with it. I know Rob's been busy.
Rob's been a little busy. Rob had all of our equipment, our soundboard, and everything that made it like professional. So he's a little busy with doing his thing with the card shop right now. So we've been on the low. A lot of people have been asking us, hey, are you going to do it again? And maybe down the road we will. Or if Eric and I get together, we might do it. But we'll see from here.
Well, I know a lot of people miss it. So hopefully you guys will get back together and we get the band back together.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start us off with Alan. Who is Alan Buehner?
So I joined the Kings of War community, I want to say around 2015. Refugee. Old world happened. Had a bunch of high elves. And I was like, well, let's go and try Kings of War. This seems like a fun game to play. And back in second edition, elves were very, 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 very good. So I was like, wow, this game's easy. Just show up with a bunch of elf hordes and give them piercing 2 and shoot everybody off the board.
Did you give them the jar to give them the extra range?
Actually, I didn't use the jar. My favorite items back then were piercing, because that'd make them, I think because you could Bane Chant. So you get them piercing 2, just delete defense 6. It didn't even matter. And then sharpness, I think you can make them hit on 3s. Because it affected shooting, I believe, back then too. So those were my 2 favorites.
The Brew of Keenness, I think is what it was called, which was a shooting, it made your range better.
There was the jar. There was one that added, I think.
The Jar of the Four Winds added 18 inches of range.
Yep.
The was it called the Brew of Keenness, which made your range value go down, I believe. And then you had the piercing.
Okay. Yeah,
item.
I can't remember the name of it, but those 2 are my favorites.
Heart-seeking pendant or something like that?
Yes. That sounds familiar.
And then back then, we could Bane Chant shooting attacks.
Oh, yeah, Bane Chant shooting. I think it was like 2 hordes of Dracon. You'd have 2 hordes of archers and take whatever else you wanted. Didn't matter. But that's how I got into it. And then playing, some of the Nerdhammer guys, obviously, they were like, okay, we don't want to play this. You're just going to dominate. And then so they kind of got out of it. I stayed in the game and watched it develop. And like they made the changes for the tournament scene, which was fantastic. It was great. Like they cared about making sure that the game, if you wanted to play competitively, that it would be well structured. And then like I'm like, hey guys, like it's getting better. Like if something's overpowered, they're bringing it back down to earth. And then they're like, oh wow, this is getting better. And then all of a sudden the guys got back into the game. We started going to more tournaments and having fun with the game. That's how I got on. That's how I'm still here.
Yeah, and give us a sense of the Mid-Atlantic tournament scene, because right now it seems like you're banging on all cylinders.
Very competitive. It's competitive, but it's in a good way. It's not like you're going to come and like, it's overbearing. We all have fun. We all know each other now because we've been playing in the same community now for years, same guys. So like, don't be afraid to go out to a tournament, even though it might be competitive. You might get your teeth kicked in for the first tournament or 2, but you're going to have fun. And that's the biggest thing is coming out, have fun, meet the people, play the game. If you want to get competitive and you want to get better, it's a great place to be. Guys are coming up with new ideas on the table with new lists. And right now we're I want to say Alpha Strike. Like that's big here. So right now I'm trying to actually think of something to counter them. And maybe I'll talk about that list at the end of here. Because I'm trying to think of something now that I could play. Chet's doing well. Marcella's doing well. Derek, Hoffman, Dale's been playing a lot of Alpha Strike. So I'm trying to think of what's the next army to counter them, to maybe bring them back down to earth. So I'm trying to think ahead a little bit. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's talk about that, though, because you guys are Nerdhammer. You're like the original OG Billy Club, right?
Yeah, we've been around.
And now you've got these battle pilgrims these loaded dice guys. Are like, is it time for Dad to come back in the room and smack them down?
It might have to be. every once in a while I like to go, have some fun, but we might have to go back for the cup. We lost the cup now. Let's see, the Cats had it, and now Mid Atlantic Irregulars have it. So now it's our turn to go back and get it. So I think we might have to bring some competitive lists down to Van. Oh no, sorry, Chet's next. So Loaded Dice in March. Loaded Dice has a GT in March, and then Vanguard in April.
Who's the best player in the Nerdhammer Club?
Who the best player? Well, I guess what do we want to go by best? Like best general, best overall, best painting.
You decide.
I decide. All right. I definitely have the most titles. That's I won the most GTs in the club. Paint wise, Eric and Barter are absolutely two amazing painters. Sports wise, I did win best sports at Masters, so that's a good one. Dale's really good. Dale, he's a good general, but he always gets to the top and then just either fumbles it or he's won dead a winner. Eric's won Battle Pilgrims and he was on the Crossroads team. I'm trying to think of us. Yeah, I mean, everybody's good all around. That's what makes it a good club. Griff's won a bunch. Griff's a really good general.
You have like a very deep club.
We have a very deep club, yeah. Yeah, Griff's really good. He's got a couple titles in there too. And
well, it's going to be an interesting year for you guys to kind of maybe slap down the upstarts.
We're starting to get some of the guys back now. Griff's getting to more tournaments. He was kind of out for a while with, family stuff, all those fun things that happen. Life.
Well, Alan, are you ready to get into the List Builder Studio?
Absolutely.
The List Builder Studio.
So to kick us off, what draws you to an army?
So when I go into an army, I like to see what it excels at first. So let's just take, for instance, since we're doing Forces of Nature, they have a lot of Pathfinder. They have some regen abilities and heal abilities. So I kind of try to pick out what I feel the army does well. And then I go from there and try to build on that. And then it's the same with every army I do. Like if it's a surge army, which again could be Forces of Nature, I try to really zone in on that aspect and play it. If it's a shooting army, I go all out shooting and maybe have a little bit, maybe like a second backup, whether that be, I'm trying to think of some examples of it, but like I always try to focus on the first main thing. And then if there's anything second that they do well, then I'll try to add that in. But if not, no big deal.
I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Oh, sure.
When you're building a list, are you thinking about fluff?
No, not really. No, not at all, actually. No, I normally try to, like, if it's competitive, I'm going for the competitive aspect of it. This was like the first time getting ready for the Forces of Nature Army Reviewer. I really looked at the fluff, but I like to learn about it. If somebody's like interested in it, I'll definitely like sit down and listen to it. But no, I'm more of what does this army do well on the battlefield, and then deliver that.
And when you sit down and build that list for the first time, what are you starting to think about first?
What do I want to achieve? How does it play in scenario? Most of the time, I think like when I build a list, though, it's like, how do I remove the army from the table? I don't like, I never even tried it, I guess, but having the high unit strength, like gobos and halflings, and I have a bunch of halflings, and I'm starting to think, do I want to try this trash army and just get all this unit strength? Because that's how you win games. I'm like, and after playing Adam Ballard at Masters and seeing like, the scarecrows and how like you just have all this, and then at the end you just go and score, and I'm like, this seems fun. This is new for me. So I might try that eventually. But when I'm starting, I'm like, how could I remove a lot of their units from the table and then still be on the table and score? Which normally comes to shooting.
When you're building a list, though, I'm assuming you're thinking about the potential armies you're going to play against.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about how to deal with them. Shooting, melee, alpha strike. And then what about meta?
Well, that's how we were just kind of talking before, like, I was saying alpha strike's dominating our meta. So now I'm starting to think about that a little bit. And do I play into that? Because I do feel like one person I feel like I always play is Marcelo. Like at some point I play him. So I'm like, do I tailor it to play that one person that I feel like I might play? Or do you try to build the all-around list? And I think the correct answer is you build the all-around list. And then you go from there and you just become good. But like, if you never have an answer to fight that one list, that is kind of a bummer. Like if, you just can't beat it, it's like, or you just keep practicing and hoping that the dice go your way.
And on that note of having a, balanced list, talk to me about how you are incorporating flexibility into your list to give you those options.
Yeah. Yeah, you always want to have. I mean, I feel the best way to do it is to build the best all around list because then you have all the. I mean, you have some of the answers, right? You probably never have all the answers, but at least have. It doesn't matter who's across from you. You have an answer to it, or you can feel like you're playing. If you're just zoning in on one person, then it kind of lets your options fade away when you're playing some other people.
And when thinking about flexibility, are you thinking about the roles of the units? And are you looking for flexible units that maybe have the ability to play a couple different ways or a couple different roles?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you see a unit that's flexible, I almost feel like they're auto include because if they do more than one thing well, that's fantastic. Because I feel like a lot of units might only have one role in your army, but if you could find a second role for them, that's even better.
Are you a universal battle guy?
Oh yeah, yeah. I took a little break because I think I went a little too hard for Masters. Like I was on every single day playing 3 times a day, and I was like, I burnt myself out big time. I definitely burned myself out last year getting ready for Masters. So right now I'm taking a little bit of a break on everything and just trying to get the mojo going again. Like I'm trying to start getting painting back, and I'm gonna get on UB again for sure.
When UB's going well and you're not burning yourself out, how does that help your list building?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of the best list building tools there is. Before UB, I mean, you could cut out paper units or like you get proxy units, and you could try these lists out when your buddies were around. But now with UB, it's like, hey, does anybody want a game? I want to try this list out. You put the units on the table, you play 3 to 5 games with it. Was it good? No? Okay, trash it. Was it good? Yes. Keep it. And then you could just keep going. And it's a great tool to get a feel for how an army should play, but you need to get that army on the table and get the experience with that army.
Yeah, it's funny. Our local player, Andy Patton, he goes a different way. He does play a little UB, but he's got this big toolbox, and they're just like these blank bases.
Yeah.
And he just goes out there and just, sort of plays UB on the table.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That is a fine way. That's the old school way to do it. Before UB, that's how you would do it. You get blank bases and you try it out. But it's, I think, also the ability just to get a game, unless you have the luxury of playing somebody all the time. It's able to get a game like on a Monday afternoon. Hey, does anybody want to play? Yeah. Okay, great. Set it up.
Or play somebody in Australia.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect.
So are you a proactive or a reactive player?
Proactive, for sure.
So you're trying to go out there and ask them questions and make them answer your difficult questions.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I never really was a reactive player. I tried it, I think, with Impalers. I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, I definitely like to be a proactive player. No doubt about it.
When you're building a list, are you thinking in terms of like battle groups or combat groups?
Yeah, I kind of like. I don't want to say I like to have a set formation, but I kind of do, because you should always be able to play against your opponent. Like look across the table, what are they putting out? Should I answer this? But I think it saves time on the clock when I already have a kind of an idea of where I want to go with certain units. Now this has nothing to do with like the forces of nature aspect, but with the Twilight Kin, I did the Ravengers shoot 'em up list, and it was pull people in. So I had to have the Crones certain spaces apart to enthrall them across the board to pull them into the shotgun zone and then just shoot people out. So that in that case, I had to have battle groups, and that worked out. And now I'm probably going to do the same thing with Wranglers coming up.
And in terms of deployment, are you, in your basement figuring out how the units should lay out on the table?
I'm on UB. Yeah, I'll set it up on UB and I'll see how it kind of looks, how it kind of feels.
How do you decide what units to drop first?
Normally I try to go with the least expensive units, or if I have chaff, like if I know where the chaff's going to go, that's kind of easy to put that there. And then what is it chaffing? Put that in front of them and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm never dropping the big scary things on the first turn. I'm normally dropping the smaller units on the first drop.
Do you ever drop the obvious stuff? Like if you got the unit with Pathfinder, it's like, okay, well, they're obviously going to go by the woods.
Yeah, they're going to go by the woods and fight in there.
Do you adjust your deployment based on the enemy? Or are you just like, look, this is me. I'm here. This is what I'm doing.
I want to say, yeah, more of that style. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm not a great general. I'm like, okay, this should be this way. I'm going to calculate. Okay, they could only go 8. Well, I fly, so I'll put my flyers here. I'm more like, yeah, okay, there's a forest here. I'm putting the Pathfinder there, you know? Or if I see, like, if it's later in deployment and I have a flyer and they didn't protect the flank, I like to put a flyer on the outside to fly up and turn, you know? Like the simple things. It's the simple things in life that make it good, you know?
Absolutely. You've played a lot of different armies,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You've mentioned Twilight Kin and Forces of Nature
Yeah.
and Elves. And do you have an affinity to one style of list? Like, do you like Elite? You mentioned you were looking at maybe a trash list, like maybe more of a
Yeah.
Horde, but are
No.
you like an Elite player at heart?
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. I play a lot of elite units, smaller armies. My origin story was about elves coming in with shooting, and it's kind of always been there, either in some form with like magic, you know, the Twilight Kin shooting. Like that's what I feel comfortable with. It's the armies that I played the most, and you know, and I know that shooting has that stigma on it. Like, you know, nobody likes to get shot off the board, right? They like to have some kind of answer. I think they've done a good job. Like nerfing the shooting from second edition till now is a very big change. So, but that is definitely my style, and I'm trying to branch out. I'm trying to go into different things. Like my Forces of Nature has no shooting. It never has. It had greater air elementals.
What's interesting though is, obviously whether you're playing an elite army or a horde army, there's one thing that differentiates that, well, I don't know if it differentiates, but like it certainly affects the ability to get unit strength in the list. And the number of drops. Maybe we start there. How are you thinking about drops in list building?
I don't think I ever sit down and I'm like, I need this many drops. It always comes down to the units I want to play. Like my Forces of Nature, I think I want to say it's like 14 drops and 3 of them might be individuals. But one of the things I'll say though is the regen. Like if I know that a unit has regen and I have heal in a list, I'm willing to take less units because I have that ability to keep going forward and heal them, regen, heal, regen. Okay, great, they're back to full.
Yeah, the durability of the unit
Yep.
is an important thing when you're considering drops in unit strength, right? Because
Uh-huh.
you mentioned regen, but like if you have higher defense or
Yep.
if you have got a good rally.
Yeah.
Let's talk about unit strength though. So we were just talking about drops.
Yep.
What about unit strength? What are you hoping to achieve there?
I mean, I definitely want to have enough unit strength at the end to score the objectives. I normally like to sit around, like, so if it's 2,300, I like to have a 23 unit strength list. Does that happen all the time? No. I'm normally willing to go 22, maybe 21, but I don't really like anything less than that. And it's funny I say that, but I think my Forces of Nature one was 19, but it had the formation. So you had 2 air elemental hordes with regen, and then you had the greater air elemental with regen, backed up by the Green Lady, the Glade Walker Druid. They all had heal, and it's like, and then I had greater earth elementals and defense 6, and you're healing them. So at the end of the game, like, you still had a lot left normally, like as long as you could protect everything.
You mentioned that in some of your armies you do use individuals. I'm just curious,
Yeah.
like when you're looking at units, are you concerned about having too many individuals or too many non-scoring units in your list?
This actually was the one that I think this is this and the TK were the tied for the most individuals I use. Normally I don't like individuals. I normally like having like let's just take for example Snow Troll Primes. Like I love that unit. It's unit strength 1. They find flanks. They're fantastic. Inspire. I normally stick away from individuals unless they're very like combat. Like they could add on a couple wounds to combats. But I do try to stick away from individuals because they don't score.
It's going to sound like a weird question, but do you have a preference between regiments and hordes when you're looking at units?
Regiments and hordes. Normally, this is I guess my old school way of thinking. It was always hordes. I always like taking hordes because I felt like I was getting. You pay a little bit more and you got more unit strength, you got more attacks, but now you also got a bigger frontage, so you can get charged easier. So it all depends on what the unit does. Like I mean, like Dwarf Iron Guard, right? You want those bad boys in regiments so people can't get multiple charges off on you. And now you're fighting a defense 6 little regiment. So I want to say I always go hordes. except for like in Forces of Nature, I use regiments of Earth Elementals. That's chaff, but that's my chaff. So
Again, though, even though it's got lowered nerve, it's defense 6, backed up by heal. So it's probably not going anywhere in one turn.
but even like lower nerve dash 15 defense 6.
It's not really low.
Yeah, right. It doesn't even feel low. It's fearless. Yeah.
Talk to me about height. And are you thinking about that when you're building a list?
No, that normally doesn't play into my list building theory at all. Like, but like in game plan, it does. Like, if I know there's a hill here, do I want to hide behind it? Put the height 3 unit behind it. Do I want to see over it and project a threat? Do I have something that's height 4? Put that there. But no, not in list building. I'm not thinking about that. I think the only time that maybe that's even crossed my mind was in my halfling build. Damn, aeronauts being height 5 is one of the most annoying things in halflings. Like I like when you want to play them, because the only thing they could really hide behind that's height 3 would be the cav, and I wasn't using cav at the time, so that added to the hurt. But I was using trolls, so like I would try to hide them behind trolls so they didn't just get shot off. But that was the only time I think I've ever really thought about height.
Talk to me about inspiring.
I normally go with I try to get 4 inspiring. That I do. I think about that a lot because I think everybody's been there when you've been out inspiring range. Oh, you need a 9 to get them. 9, take them off. It's like, that hurts so bad. That is, I think, probably one of the most important things to make sure you have in your army.
Is your goal to have everything in your army inspired at all times?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's rolls 1 high nerve and you're out. You lost a whole unit because of that. It's no good. I tried at one point to go with 3. And a lot of times I'd find something in my army wasn't inspired, and I hated it.
All right, well, let's talk about everybody's favorite topic, chaff.
Chaff.
Give me a sense of how you're incorporating chaff into your list, how you're using it, and then talk to me about how you're thinking about your opponent's chaff.
Okay, this is going to be a couple part, depending on what army I'm playing. So let's go with Forces of Nature. My chaff pieces in Forces of Nature are Earth Elementals. So the whole trick with this chaff was keep the greater air elemental behind it, move the regiment of Earth Elementals up, let them fight. Most of the times, a lot of units couldn't just break them in one go, and then you would hop behind, turn, surge in, and that's the chaff I was using for Forces of Nature. When I play Northern Alliance, Snow Foxes, amazing chaff. They're fantastic. In that case, they normally stick in front of. I use them with the ice elementals. So they'll just stick in front, shoot over top of them, let them get charged, let them die, do your thing there. Now against my opponent's chaff, hopefully I have shooting. So just shoot them. That's what I aim for first. Shoot them off. Get them out of the way. I actually struggle with Forces of Nature because I didn't have the shooting to remove the other person's chaff. So I eventually had to deal with it with combat. And when I play Forces of Nature, I didn't have that many drops, so I didn't want to sacrifice any of my big units to try to kill their chaff. So I kind of had to wait for them to hit me and try to answer it that way.
As you're talking, it just made me think about that. For being a proactive player, you're really taking the punches with your chaff rather than like with the Snow Foxes getting out there.
Yeah. The Snow Foxes would get out there, but in the Forces of Nature, I had no option but to take the charge because I think at one point I might have just had the solar staff and that was it. And I try to maybe like blink off some of their chaff with that. But like I didn't have an answer to it because I didn't want to sacrifice. I'm not going to send a horde of air elementals at a 80-point unit to get hit back with defense 4 and just lose that unit. Like I can't do that. So I would have to wait for them to either come up and try to hit something and then try to fly over, turn around, surge around them, something like that.
Let's talk about spells.
Ooh, I love spells.
Are you historically like an offensive person?
Oh yeah,
the lightning bolts and the like.
Oh yeah,
or
baby.
Are you thinking more like wound mitigation with heal and or maybe something like weakness? But just tell me, what's your philosophy on spellcasting?
I love spells. I am a sucker for spells, and this probably goes back to like my origin story with the high elves in Warhammer. I love the big spell casting army. I just like the idea of spells. This is fantasy, right? So who doesn't love spells? Twilightkin was very spellcaster heavy, that list, and that was more offensive. Drag them in, shoot them. I had Alchemist Curse in there. I had Blood Boil, had all the fun tricks. That was a very offense. Now, Forces of Nature, I like to go with the heal and heal all my wounds back, especially when you have regen. Like if you have that in your army, so you're already taking off so many and then you're healing it back. EOD does that great, right? So yeah, anytime I could fit spells in, I love a big spellcaster army.
I think it's interesting though that what you're saying is that your spell casting is obviously dictated by the needs of the army.
Exactly. Whatever the needs of the army are, or like, what does it fit? That's kind of what you go for. Like, go with the flow of the army, and it will pay off.
Now you talked about elite units, and nothing makes an elite unit better than magical artifacts, right?
Oh, yeah.
So just talk to me about how you're thinking about incorporating magical artifacts into your list.
Okay. I'm a big boys before toys guy, though. So I try to fit in units before I fit in items, unless I know that they need to have that item. Jesse's boots is one of my favorite items to go to. 15 points, right? I think that's a great one. Blade of Slashing. I always use the cheaper items, I feel. I don't try to use the expensive items. Though in Forces of Nature, when I run the formation, you have to give the air elemental hordes some type of item. They need something. And those two items, Brew of Strength and Hammer of Measure Force.
Give me one magical artifact that people are sleeping on, though.
What are they sleeping on? That's a good question. I probably have to look up because I'm probably sleeping on it too. Because I don't think anybody's sleeping on it, but I know like Gnome Glass Shield on individuals is fantastic. I love that, especially using it for those succubi. The
Seductress.
Yeah, Seductress. I think everybody knows that now, though. The one that I felt like people were sleeping on, but no longer, was the crown of the Wizard King on oh my god, the Gladewalker Druid in this army. Like that was one of the first items I had in here, and it wasn't. I didn't see anybody using it. And all of a sudden, it became more popular, and I was like, okay, people are catching on to that. But yeah, right now I can't think of anything.
So let's talk command orders. It's a new thing in Clash of Kings. Just give me a sense of how have you found command orders, one, and where do you hope they go in the future?
I think they're fun. I mean, a lot of the competitive guys they're so against it right now, at least in the Mid Atlantic. But we did have Nerdhammer GT, and we used the command dice, and they were fun. It was a fun new little aspect of the game that could change combats. But there is a big gap between armies with them, which I feel that needs to be addressed going forward. But it definitely adds to the game, like being able to go backwards, your full movement. That's really good for the Alpha Strike armies that could fly in, and then all of a sudden, if they get wavered, they could back up. Like dwarves can't even charge them. So like something like that needs to be addressed, because if they back up a full 10, dwarves only charge 8. So like that kind of needs to be addressed, I think, as well. But overall, go out and have fun with them. I liked Forces of Nature. I got to play with them. Hordes of salamanders, defense 5. Getting to regen them was fantastic. Losing Shamble for greater air elementals, that's kind of nasty.
Yeah, I think what you're alluding to, there's a lot of potential there.
Oh,
that
there's
just
a
needs
lot
to be further refined. And you're right. I think the balance between the armies, there's some armies that have really cool, effective, or even lore cinematic, background supporting commands, and some that feel like maybe they go back in the oven a little bit and bake them a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
So talk to me about speed. Are you a fan of speed?
Yeah, I love it when I have it, yeah. I love flying units. I'm trying to think of the Frost Claws in Northern Alliance. Those fast, nimble units that could just, fly 20 turn. I'm a sucker for them. And especially when you're, after a while with not playing an army that has speed or is using the speed, when you get it, it's addicting. Being able to get that charge off on them first is fantastic. But lately, I think all my armies right now have been pretty slow. Like max charge range probably 10, 12. So I haven't played it in a while, unless I'm playing the greater air elementals. Then I have the ability. But normally I'm not charging out with that army. I'm waiting till you charge, and then I'm going to, which kind of goes against my proactive play. But you can't just sacrifice those types of units. So
how do you mitigate your opponent's speed?
Chaff. I mean, if you have, definitely want to put some chaff in your army because, or if you have enough shooting, if you could take out their speed, because normally they can't charge in, or close range shooting, you have to use chaff. So I think it does come down to making sure that you have enough chaff, let them hit you, have a response back, and if not, try to think of something else.
At the top of the show, when we were talking about where you start and you're starting to build your list for the first time, you mentioned scenarios, right? Like,
yeah,
just walk me through, like, are you conscious of, how do I play objective based, movement based, bluff tokens, loot tokens, progressive scenarios? Just talk to me about how you are consciously trying to make sure this army can play in the different types of scenarios.
You kind of want to, I guess, you want to have that all around feel to it. Like you want to be able to play all the scenarios because you don't know most of the time when you go to a GT, you don't know what all the scenarios are going to be. They normally don't give you that ahead of time. So when I'm building, I'm trying to make sure that I have enough unit strength that I could go up and grab tokens, hold them. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm building a list that I feel comfortable playing because that really comes down to the most important thing. Like if you play an Alpha Strike army and you never played it before, you're probably not going to do that well with it. You're going to make choices and charge in too fast and get destroyed by your opponent. So you definitely want to play something that you're comfortable with playing, you had reps with, and then just make sure that you have enough unit strength to go up and grab your tokens. And have a battle plan before you go in. Like try to think like this is where I want my army. A lot of times people will space out a little too much. They'll break their army into two different sides and it's too easy to pick them apart. So just kind of have a battle plan, know what you're going in, what you're going to do, how to play a scenario. And if you have a balanced list, everything should go well.
What's your favorite type of scenario?
I like the easy ones, honestly, but then I remember how much fun like Smoke and Mirrors is when I get to a GT and I have to look in the book on how to play it. I'm like, who the hell plays Smoke and Mirrors? I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. I'm like, I forgot how fun it is because I can't play it on UB, really, Dominate, it's a classic. Control's fun. I think they're all great scenarios and they all add a little bit to the game. It's a different way to play, right? So, but I do enjoy when I go to the GT and it's one of the scenarios I haven't played in forever. And then I'm like, I realize how much fun this is. I'm like, we should play this more.
We have progressive scenarios now in this latest Clash. I'm just curious, like, how have you found progressive scenarios and how has it changed the way you think about the game?
Honestly, I haven't got to play one yet. I haven't sat down. I do want to try it because the one seemed really, it wasn't Bulldog. What was the Bulldog's one of them, but that wasn't
like
it.
Rack and Ruin, maybe?
Rack and Ruin. I think that was the one that it was. I'm like, man, this seems really fun. I want to play it. And I plan to get there, but I haven't got to do it yet.
Does the scoring system being used at the event affect your list?
No, not really. I do have, my favorite scoring systems, but I don't base my list on the scoring system.
And what is your favorite? Is it the Bart Shroud?
Bart Shroud and Blackjack. It's a tie. Bart Shroud is easier because it kind of uses the Northern Kings, just add up what you killed and that's what you get. But in my heart, though, I still think that I love Blackjack because in my opinion, as a general, you don't want to lose your army. So I feel like there should be a penalty like when you lose some of your army. So you take the difference between the attrition and that's what you get. But in Northern Kings and Bart Shroud, you just add up what you killed and then you get a score based on that. So I feel as a general, I don't want to lose my men on the battlefield. So I'm a sucker for Blackjack.
I don't think the Mid-Atlantic uses any scoring systems that do not think about kill. Because if you didn't have to worry about what you lost or what you killed and all you had to worry about was the scenario, I wonder how or if your army would change at all.
Yeah, I was never a big fan of the win-loss draw. Like I always like to have something added onto it. And in the early days, we had the Nerdhammer scoring system, and it was a lot like Blackjack. It was very close to Blackjack, and then Blackjack became the thing. But we never just did a win-loss draw, and I don't know how I'd feel about it, honestly. But I do think some armies would definitely play better in win-loss draw. Because some armies just, trash armies, you got to get killed, and then you just score at the end, you're going to win. Okay, you won the game. You killed all my army. I might not even kill a unit of yours, but I could win the game.
Yeah, it's funny because it definitely affects list construction in the sense that if you don't have to worry about what you lose or even what you kill, it opens up maybe more options. And it's the same as too the other one. If you're playing Blackjack and you have to keep your stuff alive, well, then you're going to opt for the more durable stuff. That can maybe put a punch out, but take a punch too.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about terrain. When you're building your list, are you sitting there thinking, okay, how am I going to mitigate terrain? How am I going to use terrain to my advantage? How am I going to use, put my opponent in a bad spot with terrain? I mean, are those things that are going through your head as you're building a list?
Yeah, I normally like to have like if the army has access to like a Pathfinder unit, I normally like to have something that could maybe sit in the woods, wait, Strider, and you have the wall, you can put him behind the wall and wait. But more or less, I think it's more the Pathfinder I'm looking for. If the army has access to Pathfinder, I'll probably try to fit that into the army. But that's the only one I'm actually probably going out and actually looking for. Strider's not actually too common, I don't think. I mean, water elementals here. I did have water elementals in a lot of my list, but that was more for the greater the greater air elemental. He gave out the brutal to water elementals and air elementals, but that was the reason I took them. But yeah, Pathfinder's key, especially now that we lost the item. What was it, the 20-point item that used to give somebody Pathfinder?
Yeah, Caterpillar.
Yep, Caterpillar. Now that item's gone, I think Pathfinder units are definitely more valuable.
I mean, it sounds like you're thinking about how to mitigate getting through terrain, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Do you like player place terrain?
I think being being part of the GT and helping Rob run the GT, and that I feel like would just take up too much time when the player, but being a player, I think that adds a little bit more to tactics, like being a general. But then you could have that shooting player. Okay, well, I'm just going to put the forest over here in the corner. I'm going to put this forest over here. Okay, now you got a wide open battlefield and you're playing a shooting army. No, I don't want that. So I kind of like when it's automatically done for you. I feel like it's well balanced instead of letting that player that obviously has 140 shots just grab the biggest forest and put it in the corner.
When you're playing a GT, do you like all the tables in the same round to have the same layout?
Yeah, I think that's more just like the convenience of, like, you don't want to have all these different printouts. Like here, everybody play on this. It's fair for everybody. I mean, yeah, you might have some buildings that are bigger than others, some forests. I mean, everything can't be exactly the same, but it's balanced for everybody then, right? You can't say, oh, I played on table one. There was no train in the middle of the table. Oh, I played on table two and there was all the train in the middle of the table. So it's kind of fair for everybody, I think.
Does playing on a clock affect your list building?
It doesn't affect my list building, but I do sit down and I notice, like, okay, this army, I got to play faster. It more or less, like in my preps getting up to the GT, I'll notice, like, okay, like you can't spend this much time on XYZ because you're going to need that time at the end of the game. With Forces of Nature, I realized rolling all the regens, that ate up clock. Like, and then you're like, okay, like I gotta go a little bit faster, but I didn't have a shooting phase, so like that kind of like made me realize, okay, well, you don't have that, so this is okay. But like, if depending on how much dice you're rolling, you got to take that into consideration.
When you're building a list, are you thinking about that first turn roll? I mean, are you conscious of, like, I want to go first, I want to go second?
Depending on what army I'm bringing, yes. So with my most recent visit to Masters there, I kind of wanted to go second because I wanted to be able to enthrall my opponent after they moved up, enthrall, and then shoot them. If I'm using the Forces of Nature, I kind of want to get closer. So in that case, I want the first turn. So depending on what army I'm bringing, depends on if I want first or second. But I'm not building it around to go first, unless you're using like deep range shooting. Then you want to go first.
How does the annual updates that happen in Clash of Kings affect your list building?
Oh, I love updates. I love Clash of Kings. That to me is like the whole refresh the whole meta type of thing. So I like big changes. I know a lot of people don't, but I do because I feel like that shakes things up. What keeps the game moving, what could bring in new players, is getting that new book in hand and finding out what works. Like, I love addition changes.
I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyways. Has the hobby ever affected your list?
The hobby aspect, like
there's a model I want to use, or there's something that, from a hobby perspective, that's like forcing your hand, to take something that maybe you wouldn't take because it's not as effective.
I think with Kings of War, there's a lot of flexibility on what models you could use, so that I never had that problem, right? Like, if there's a giant I want to use, I'll figure out some army that has a great giant that I could put it in. So like I'm never taking a weak like unit just because I want to model it. If I want to model it, I'll model it and I'll use it as a cool unit that fits the theme. Like I never like I find a good way to use models that I want on the table. I could say that.
I like your perspective though, because I never really thought about the fact that there's 28 armies. Like,
yeah,
if there's a giant that I want to use, there's a bunch of armies that have giants, and I'll just play one of those.
Right.
And I guess that's because you do play so many different armies.
Yeah.
Rather than some other folks that just maybe only play 2 or 3 armies.
Yeah.
How does the amount of points you're going to play at an event affect your list?
Honestly, we always play 2,300. I have never gone to another tournament where I have not played 2,300, unless I guess in other editions when it might have been like 2,150. It's whatever the common of that edition, whatever the points is. I feel like that's what we always play. We never play like 1995. Like we never play like anything really low or anything super high. It's always whatever the key point value is for that edition. I feel like that's what we always stick to, and we never go away from it.
I'd be curious though. Do you think it'd be an interesting development though if you did have more events in your region that mixed it up and sort of forced your hand?
I wouldn't know what to do.
When we started second edition, 2000, 2150, or even like if people wanted to be cheeky, they'd go 1995, so you'd get one less. Because back then we didn't have some of the protections against shooting.
Yep.
We talked about some of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so by going 1995, that limited some of the nasty war engines.
Yep.
You can only have 2. What's the most overlooked thing that impacts successful list building?
So I think this is going to be a lot of people chasing what they feel is the meta. Like, oh, well, this person's doing really good with this list because this. Well, no, it's probably because they probably played that for so long and they're used to it. So I feel like a lot of people feel like, well, I'll just bring this because this person's doing really well with it, and they might not go out and get any reps with that. And then they go in and they get smashed anyway. It's build to what you feel comfortable and get an army that you feel comfortable with and get that on the table, get the reps with it, play it, be comfortable with it, and then go out and make your changes. Don't just build something that is doing well and then just expect to do good with it. And also then when you do that, there's a good chance that that's probably going to get nerfed the next edition anyway. So don't just keep chasing the meta. Find something that you're good with, that you like, and play it, and then just get good with it.
Obviously you've got a lot of background with Warhammer. Is it the player or is it the list in Kings of War?
In Kings of War, 100% is the player. That to me was without a question. Now in Warhammer, I'd say like you could go with like the list, because some of it was just absolutely nonsense. And actually, if you would go by the old rules of Warhammer when it was actually just it was 8th edition, right? The only reason that made Warhammer is like a good game was the ETC, was the European Team Championship. Like they had their own built-in nerfs, like with a point system that you had to use their point system, and that's actually what made it good and was made it competitive, was the community going out and making the changes. Now in Kings of War, you have the rules committee, and they do a fantastic job of keeping the game balanced, and it comes down to the player.
Yeah, that's why I love Kings of War, right? Because I know you probably had the same experience. You show up to a GT in Warhammer, I look across and it's Dark Elves.
Yeah.
I know how this dance is going to go.
Yeah, right. Like you had High Elves who had a ward save against all demons. They had a 2-up ward save. So Eric played demons back when we played Warhammer. I played High Elves. His whole army, every single time I was getting a 2-up ward save with the Banner of the World Dragon, just 2-up ward save. And he's like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I know. So by Kings of War, there's nothing like super crazy. Like we have some things that are like a little off the wall, but nothing like where you could show up across from your opponent like, yeah, I know I'm going to lose. I'm done.
What's the most important question that a new player should be asking when they're building their list?
What they should ask is, what do you want to get out of this? Are you in the game for hobby? Are you in the game for you want to be competitive? And then go from there. Like if you want to get in and you want to do this amazing piece of work, like you want to just show off your army, then do it. That's what makes you happy. If you want to get in competitive, go through the list and see what units you want, what's going to work well together. whatever you're doing, just make sure that you're going to get fulfillment out of it. Like, or else you're just going to be miserable. Like, don't go in expecting like to come in and stomp everybody that's been playing this game for, 7 years or even longer. I had a couple new players. They just thought, they were very competitive players. They thought they were just going to come in and kind of, do well, like right off the bat. And they took their licks and they're like, oh man, like, and they kind of like, then they left. And it's like, well, yeah, these guys have been playing this game for a long time. You got to put in your dues, but you should ask yourself, what do you want to get out of it? And then go from there.
How has your list building evolved since you started Kings of War?
Let's see. Like when I first started Kings of War, I love shooting. That's what I did. So I try to step away from that with some of my armies. The biggest one was going from my shooting armies to the forces of nature. And that was going into play Surge. So when I evolve, I guess it would be trying new styles. So we went from shooting to Surge armies. Now I might try the halfling trash, but I feel like when you play an army, if you're going to move to a different army, make sure that you're not moving to a different army that plays exactly the same way as your old army, or you might as well just play your old army. So like, if you have a Surge, like don't go from like maybe undead to forces of nature, like somewhere that keeps using the Surge. Like try maybe something that's alpha, like Green Lady. So like when you do move or you evolve, try a different play style, and that might freshen the game up for you.
All right. Well, next up, let's get into the best part of the show where Alan shows us his genius by sharing his awesome lists. And what list do you have for us?
All right, so we're going to give you the one that I took to Battle Pilgrims. This was a couple years ago. So this was before the nerf of the greater air elementals.
So it still had 10 attacks?
Yeah, I still think this will fit really good for list building here. We have 2 hordes of the water elementals, 2 regiments of earth elementals, 2 greater air elementals. We have a druid with the amulet of the Fireheart, Bane Chant, Surge 4, Heal 2. Another druid, Conjurer Staff, Bane Chant 2, Surge 4, Heal 2. Avatar of the Green Lady, Gladewalker Druid with the Ring of Harmony, Crown of the Wizard King, Heal 4, Surge 8. And then we have the Formation, which is the 2 hordes of air elementals, Brewish Strength, Hammer, Measure Force on them. And then, of course, the greater air elemental that gives out the brutal aura to the water elementals, to the air elementals, and has regen himself. And that is the list. Comes in at 13 drops and a total unit strength of 19. So this kind of goes against my having the unit strength, but I have a lot of heal in here, and I have some hammers in there. So.
And is this like the culmination of many, many revisions? Like, is this a list that evolved over time and this was like the final version, or?
No, this was kind of, I just threw it out and just started playing with it. I kept playing with it. And I think at the time, a lot of people struggled with playing against 50 by 50 surgible monsters. And you could just catch people off guard. Honestly, it was like kind of a gotcha. I mean, not a big gotcha, but it's still a gotcha list.
Was that you playing into the meta? People weren't ready for it and you got them? Okay.
Mm-hmm. As I tell people not to chase the meta, I do it myself.
Well, if you win, it's okay, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. If you lose, it's a bummer, but if you win, I did it right?
What did this army work well against?
This army, you kind of wanted to see a lead army across from you. You wanted them to have a low number of drops because every time you'd be able to pick up one of their big elite units, it was worth more. It was harder to fight against trash because you can only kill so many units, and then they normally have layers behind them, and the whole trick was to get behind them, and then once greater air elementals are in your backfield, it's game over. But if you had enough trash units to put up front, best I could do maybe surge your flanks, and then even sometimes if you gave enough room to get one behind, to get a greater air behind you, and you had another army back or another unit back here, they would just surge you, and then once you can't fly, it's kind of over.
What units were the best performers in the list?
Easily the greater air elementals. Greater air elementals were just so good. Being on a 50, just getting to the flanks. But the other one, though, the engine that runs the whole thing is the Gladewalker Druid. Double casting.
Yeah, the Ring of Harmony is awesome.
Ring of Harmony is awesome. So you got the double cast. You're re-rolling your one, so you're pretty much elite when you're casting. Just the double surge is just so nasty. And she just got wherever it wanted to go. You just hide it behind units and just surging them on in, and it was definitely the key piece.
How to do in scenarios?
You couldn't really, you can't really spread out too much with this army. So like you kind of had to keep everything together so you were able to get the greater errors where they needed to be. So if it was a scenario where they could really spread things out, it would struggle. And so let's take for instance, pillage. My whole goal was to get 4. Win this scenario. You don't win it by a lot, but you still win. This army like was not looking to go out to blackjack somebody. Like I probably wasn't going to get a 21 on most people. It was just going out to look. You're going to die. Normally by the end of the game, you're hoping to have like maybe 2 air elementals left and maybe a horde or 2, because they're going to die. You have to trade off with this army.
Well, you've won some events with this army, right?
Eric won the event. I got best general with this list. Yep.
So was it your hobby that let you down? Couldn't be your hobby.
No. Eric had the best battle. So I think he was playing the elf list at the time. Yeah. So number 1 always goes by like your best, but like I guess the best general might be like the second best. I can't remember how exactly they scored it, but that's what I got for this one. And honestly, this is a funny story though too. This event was Battle Pilgrims. I probably did a lot better than I should have because it came down to turn 6 in 2 games where my opponents, if they rolled snake eyes, I won. If they didn't roll snake eyes, I lost. And in 2 games at the end, both of my opponents rolled snake eyes. Like how crazy is that? I won 2 games because they won snake. So it was just luck, honestly, that I got that far, but better lucky than good, right?
A good general puts himself in position to take advantage of any opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll look at it that way, right?
Now, you have another list that you wanted to share. You mentioned earlier in the show, we've had Marcelo on the show. Alpha Strike is very prevalent. You mentioned Dale is playing some Alpha Strike now. Those dirty, nasty, run you down armies.
Yep.
The impetus for this list is you're trying to fight off their filth.
So let's go with this list. This is fun. Now, this is all theory right now. I have not yet.
Oh, we love theory.
We love theory. Okay, because I do want to try this. I'm waiting to get it out on the table. So this is another Forces of Nature list. This is a horde of ensnarers with hammer and measure force, 2 regiments of hunters of the wild, a horde of forest shamblers, 2 regiments of the Bray Striders, the centaurs, 2 greater air elementals, Kapoka, the hidden savior, 2 forest wardens, 1 with blade of slashing, tree herder with pipes of terror, and wilt daddy, coming in at 13 units with 25 unit strength. So the trick with this is you have Kapoka, who gives out phalanx to all the verdant units, which is pretty much everybody in this list. I think it is everybody except the greater airs and the centaurs. Yes, and then snares. So you have a battle group with all them in it, right? So you also have weakness. And you have scout. So now you could scout up, try to keep them for single charges. You could throw out weakness, and you have phalanx now. So all those cav, if they have crushing strength, they're going to lose that, and then they lose their thunder with phalanx.
If you're staring down Marcelo, who you've probably played a dozen times, how do you think it's going to go?
I'm going to have to try it at some point. I think with this list, though, you're relying a lot on the tree herders for the crushing strength. Because I don't think, even with like Vicious, you have the Vicious Ore for all them. I don't know if they're going to be able to put out a lot of damage. See, so this is going to be my shot at doing a reactive list, so I got to take them on, let them come in and charge me, and then try to get good counter charges here. Yeah, I'm relying a lot on the greater air elementals and a lot on the tree herders in this list. So, I mean, in theory, I'd try to push up, not give multiple charges, let him try to come in and then take advantage of it. Maybe surge into some flanks with the air elementals. Or, I mean, trees themselves could just do damage if both of them could get in the same combat.
So when are you going to bring it to the tournament?
We'll see. I have to figure out what I'd have to paint up for this. I think I'd need Hunters of the Wild, but that's it. Oh, no, and 1 unit of Centaurs I would need, which isn't a lot. I can knock that out in easily in a month.
I'm excited for when you make your public challenge to say, hey, Marcelo, I got you.
Oh, he would love it. He would love it.
Call him out in the first round in an event.
Yeah, I don't even have to call him out. We always find each other. He's the one person that I always play. I don't even have to call him out.
Is that because the cream rises to the top?
Yeah, that's right. Hit him with that Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Well, if you're ready, we are going to go into 10 rapid fire questions, Alan. I'm going to hit you with a quick question. Just give me whatever pops in your head. You ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll, man.
What's your favorite army?
Twilight Kin.
What is your least favorite scenario?
The scenarios that I don't know what I'm doing, I have to look in the rule book for.
What drives you creatively or competitively?
Creatively would be new models that I see that I could print and paint up. Competitively is something that I find a new tactic for, something that I haven't done before that I want to get out on the table and try out.
When your opponent rolls snake eyes.
Oh, heartbreaker.
When you roll snake eyes.
Ooh, heartbreaker.
What is your favorite hobby material?
Favorite hobby material? My airbrush.
What is your biggest gaming pet peeve?
Biggest gaming pet peeve. You know what? I don't like dice boxes where I can't like you can't see into them. I think.
If you had to replace miniature wargaming with another hobby, what would it be?
3D printing.
What other miniature wargame would you not want to play?
40K.
If you had a romantic evening
Ooh.
with Ronnie Renton, what would you whisper sweetly to him?
Let's see. Nerf dwarfs. That would get him going. Yeah, would get.
Well, Alan, it's been a real hoot. I'm glad we were able to get you on, and you can share some of your wisdom in the list building.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure. I had a blast.
Don't forget, no matter how dire things get, do not forget you can always countercharge.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.